Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever you are, welcome to the Good Values podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be discussing a question that I've asked for several years to people who are amateurs, professionals, whether you're an artist, a creative person, or just people every day. It's worth asking this question just because of the interesting answers that you get back. Now, I ask this question to every single podcast guest that I have, and I love hearing the answers. They're very varied, and it tells you a lot about the person. Some people really appreciate it, and in fact, all of my guests did. But there's one professional who doesn't really appreciate the question that much, and I've asked him this question over and over again. I'm going to save that till later on in the podcast episode. As a little treat at the end, I have a feature of, it's a clip from a live stream from the Proco website, from the Proco channel on YouTube, featuring Carla Ortiz. She answers the question, she loves it. And then Hyun Jin, he answers the question, he makes a bit of a joke. And then Kim Jung-gi, who I'm a big fan of, I've spoken of before. A lot of you will know who he is, and if you don't know who he is, then look him up. Check out the Super Annie channel on YouTube and Instagram, and fantastic artist, and the other people who are part of that channel are also phenomenally talented people. Really worth checking out. So when I watched his live stream, I posed the question to him, and it's not the first time. He knows the question. He'll recognize my name now. And I don't want to rub him the wrong way, but at the same time, I love posing him this question because it's one of my favorite questions specifically for artists or creative people. The reason why I say artists is if you draw or paint or sculpt or whatever your medium is, asking this specific question is about how you observe things, how you retain things, what you notice in the world and what you value. And that's what I'm trying to pull out of the guest or the person who I'm posing the question to. So what I'm going to do is first get into the different aspects of observation where I find things that are noteworthy, or observations that I've made, things from my phone which I found in there and thought I'll include this. It's obviously something which I've noticed and I've grabbed either in a photograph or in a video. So I've included that as a little montage as well. And then after that, I'm going to have back to back of the guests of my podcast all answering this question. And I think that just hearing the varied ways in which they process the question and they respond to it is interesting enough. Whereas putting it all together is kind of a collection of thoughts regarding this this prompt. The question is in the title, so you'll know what I'm talking about. What is the most beautiful thing you've seen today? I'm starting off this montage with this short video because almost every day, especially throughout the warmer seasons, I've been seeing these little starlings, or is it sparrows? These little birds come and visit my house and have a dip in this little, it's kind of a bird bath that I've set up outside. And I thought it was just lovely. This is a baby seagull that I just loved how it was looking over its shoulder. Now this group of cows I actually showed my portfolio folder to, and they were quite interested. And I really enjoy engaging animals in conversation because they come and pay attention. This is what I refer to as my little girl. This is Mona, a little cat who I knew since she was a tiny little kitten. And there she is over my shoulder when I've got my long locks flowing down. These are the type of flowers that I notice sometimes just because I love the different little patterns that they can have. Lovely lush greenery, an amazing cliff edge, and between these big rocks, some wildflowers. Sometimes the things that you notice can be a piece of artwork, whether it's rough or clean, or something which you created yourself, something which has aspects of horror to it, something which has parts of disgust that you experience to it, or something which is just stacks of complicated different bits and pieces. And that even relates to nature here, where you can see these overgrown thistles and vines. Sometimes it's dappled lighting, which you see between the trees and the leaves, a beautiful expanse of a landscape, something which is truly picturesque. And sometimes it can be over rooftops, something a bit more suburban, or the design of a classic car. I also appreciate the groupings of things together, the colour combinations, the chance seeing of smoke and wisp in light. Even during the pandemic, when there was taped off bookshelves, I found that quite interesting. And this is a bit of a joke, is the food bin, which I did a video on where I painted the food bin. And this here is where I'm flicking through a book of war machines. Now, I'm not much of a pro-war person myself, but you've got to admit that when you flick through a book like this, it's got so many interesting pages and designs to it. I just love looking at these things and soaking up the imagery, the compositions of the page, sometimes the colour combinations, but certainly the design and different parts which I notice that I think are really beautiful. Even horrific things like bombs being dropped can have beautiful aspects to them, like the sparks that fly off or the shapes of the smoke or the explosion. Horrifying truth behind the design, but a beautiful part of it can be how some things look. But a lot of this book, my appreciation is for the engineering, the technicality of some of these designs and the machinery, the way that some of the artwork is rendered. And I think it's really important for especially artists who like to draw or paint from imagination, because to look through books like this really helps you to store different things that have worked well and stuck out to you. Now, high contrast is always great, range in different line thicknesses, so really heavy lines with really thin lines. But then books like this is an anatomy book, Gray's Anatomy. I got this because I wanted to have a real insight to what was underneath the skin and to look at the different shapes and combinations of skeletal system, the network of veins and also the muscle groups, the muscular, the diagrams which show the muscular structures. Things like that can be endlessly fascinating. And I haven't studied anatomy, so I can't teach on that type of thing. But at the same time, when I look at it, I just love the kind of layering in the depth to each of these structures and forms. That's the type of thing which I really try to tap into when it comes to drawing from imagination, is things which I've seen and have had an effect on me in some way or other because of how phenomenally complex it is and how impactful the truth beneath it is as well. So this can be a mixture of x-rays, diagrams, and different drawings and renderings. Looking through books like this is great to do before you start a sketch or a doodle, because you will find certain small ideas and observations will sneak into the drawing that you've made. And this is all about observation and retaining information. The things that you value out of everything that you've seen in these pages, what is it that sticks out to you? And you can see, as I'm looking through this book, I'm stopping at certain pages and pointing at things, saying this is beautiful, this is amazing, this really has an impact on me. Sometimes it's because there'll be a spiral in there, or there'll be just layers of different kind of muscle tissue all overlapping each other. Muscle tissue? Don't know if it's called muscle tissue, but you know what I mean. The different complicated structures that make up the human body. This book is on minimalism. Again, a phenomenal book to look through, just to try and soak up some of the more inspirational aspects of design. And because you're seeing these things in the real world, it has this incredible dynamism to it, which just drawings sometimes don't. So it's nice to see things actually there, built. Now, I love the depth of that image as well, just to see the doorway through that passageway and through different rooms. Things like that have a big impact on me. And this is what I mean about what is the most beautiful thing. And it's a superlative. So I do say that in this video. I'll say that to certain guests is, don't let that put you off, or don't let it affect your answer to say, is that the most beautiful thing? Because that can be a bit of a trick. Now, this is a book which I had delivered, and I open it up on camera. One of my favourite artists, Claude Monet. So flicking through this again will show just this incredible body of work by this impressionist painter. And I love the compositions, the colours, the execution, the way that he's actually created the scene. Even in black and white, it's really striking to me. His choices of where to sit and paint and to frame this image. But the way that he actually achieves it with the paint, his brush technique, things like that have a real profound impact on me. In fact, there are videos on YouTube it's a slideshow of Claude Monet's work set to classical music. And I've played that several times just to enjoy and to get me in the mood and in that zone of being creative. What's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
Gosh. I think at the moment in high summer, I don't know the name of the plant, but we have them everywhere in our garden. They are coming out of the gaps between the house and the stone tiles.
Yeah.
I think, is it Welsh stock? Do you call it Welsh stock?
I'm terrible at
They
any
are
kind
pink.
Of... Oh, really?
They have this pink, white, and there is a color in between. It's an amazing red color.
Wow.
I love so much. It isn't a fire brigade red.
Yeah.
It's something between red and pink, something in between.
Oh, lovely.
And this color against the grey sky, the dark grey sky. I think that's what I saw today in the morning when I went into the car.
That's a fantastic answer. That's excellent.
Yeah. So these two, I think it's this combination of these two colors and the green, the summer green.
Beautiful.
Yes.
I like to ask every artist that I speak to, I know you don't call yourself an artist, but as a creative person and a creator, I think it's relevant. The first is, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
The sun, the sky.
That's amazing. Is this the sunrise, or was it when you woke up and
No,
saw it through the window?
no, the blue sky and the bright sun.
Mm.
I mean, to me, that's what illuminates the colours and everything.
Mm.
And I've been restricted this morning, but I managed to get out, and I need to get out and see that blue sky. Skies amaze me.
Yeah.
There was a sunset last night like you wouldn't believe. Simon.
I filmed it last night. I filmed
Did
it.
you?
It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have had to driven away, to get a good view, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to take a snap of it. But I mean, I've taken countless photographs of sunsets and sunrises and clouds on.
Yeah.
And when you try to paint a cloud on a sky, you'd never seem to be able to get it right.
No.
But nature does it perfectly.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what shape colour or whatever. No. It's perfect in every detail.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a funny mistake, does it?
No, but there are curious things, you know, because I saw last week, and I photographed this so I can send this to you. I saw a backwards S in the sky, like a big swooping backwards S, and I've never seen that in the sky before. To see like a real stylized kind of swoopy S.
Oh yeah.
And it was very strange. It wasn't a plane. It was just a wisp of a cloud, but it was backwards S.
I noticed. That's good. You see that. I noticed things like that. That's it's that noticing that's the important part.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't see these little magical marks and spaces.
Yeah.
They just pass it by. Oh yeah, you know, it's a house on the side. No, I see the shape of the roof. I see the door. You know, what a fantastic old-fashioned door.
Yeah.
And what gets me is they used to, in the old days, as I grew up in, there was only two colours. That was inside and out for woodwork and whatever, windows and interior. That was like a cream and a green.
Really?
Yeah, and inside they'd have like a dado line, and the bottom would be green and the top would be cream.
Really? Yeah.
This is all functional, but I saw one yesterday, can't remember when I saw it now. I looked and I saw this old doorway in this old stone house, and it was that green.
Wow.
And there was a chap up in the village where Hillman lived. He lived in his mother's house. He's passed away now, and somebody's probably bought the house, but it was in its original paint, which was cream and green. That's the only two colours that were available in those days.
Really? I never knew that. It's interesting.
Oh yeah, I'll have to show you sometimes. It's and I like the colour.
Yeah.
I think they go together extremely well.
Yeah, they sound complementary.
Oh, they do, and when it's weathered, that's you know, it's got that chalky appearance. The gloss has gone, you know.
Yeah.
And which makes it look even better, that green.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. What's the most beautiful thing you've seen today? It can be anything. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You know, it can be the smallest thing. You know, it's just something that you remember that you saw beauty in.
I kind of like the plant behind you, to be honest.
Oh, really? Which one? This one?
Yeah, that one. But the thing is, I've not really done anything yet today, so
Oh, that's really kind of you to say the plant behind me.
Yeah.
I only got these plants yesterday.
Oh, really? Did you actually?
In addition to the studio.
Oh, no, I think they're really nice. See, I love all the greenery. I've got like a little bonsai there, and I've had him for like, I don't know, 2 years now. But
Oh, nice. Yeah, I just thought I've got to try and beautify my environment a little bit. It was all a bit too, you know, books and boxes and tools and things, but that's very sweet of you. You know, I asked a professional illustrator that a couple of times, and to the extent where he recognises who I am. This is online and he's South Korean, so he had to get a translator to tell him but he always recognises this question, this what's the most beautiful thing, and he rejected the question every time. He'd say his toe fungus, he'd say what he flushed down the toilet that morning, and he would not answer the question honestly because he didn't like it. But I still love him. I still, you know, follow and watch him and think he's fantastic. But it's funny how he just can't answer that question. And he's someone who can conjure whole worlds from his imagination with no photo reference at all. Completely, you know, masterful. So yeah, that was it's funny to see how different people answer that. So that's quite nice. A question that I often ask, and I'll try to ask in every episode, is what is the most beautiful thing that you've seen today?
My dog.
Yeah, which one? You've got two there now, so which one of you playing favourites? The
male. I took him for his usual walk, and there's a particular garden that has a cat, and whenever we get near that garden, his ears prick up. And we got round the corner, and he just stood up on his two legs. He put his front two legs on the wall, and the pose he had
Really?
He was beautiful. He was beautiful. Absolutely. His whole pose, he's the most handsomest dog I've ever seen.
So he was...
That's the most beautiful thing.
So was the pose, he was excited to see the cat? Or was he aggressive about the cat? How was he kind of, what were you getting from him?
Oh no, he's always excited. Yeah. He's always excited. He's not aggressive at all. Not aggressive.
Lovely. So he was kind of wanted to see the cat as a friend. He could kind of sense that it was there.
Yeah, very much so. But he's such a magnificent. I wish I could the word to describe it, but he was magnificent. His pose was magnificent. Absolutely amazing. Lovely.
Yeah, well, if you can picture it, you can potentially replicate it. See if you can draw it at some point, because that sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah. I should have taken a photograph.
There's not always the time. Your eyes have got to soak it up. You've got to try and appreciate these moments. But that's really nice. That's a unique answer. I've not had that before. Because as artists, you're observers and you're people who retain certain things that you find important in the world. So I like to ask, what is the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
Beautiful thing I've seen today?
Yeah.
It's going to be really cheesy.
That's fine, yeah.
It was, my partner was over with his daughter, because the big boys had gone to school. And I was just standing outside, I'd just given her a bath, and she just looked at me, and she just walked straight over to me and gave me a hug and thanked me for doing her hair. And it was just the look on her face. Yeah. Just adorable.
Oh, that's amazing. That's
looking
a beautiful answer.
Thank you for doing my hair for Sports Day.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, that is a very beautiful thing to see. Oh, amazing. That's a great answer. So this question I've been asked every day, and I think this is quite a nice one, and that is, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today? Now, don't be put off by the superlative of most beautiful. It's just something which you remember and you've retained as something beautiful you've seen. And often it can be sunlight or a plant or a bird or, whatever it can be.
I don't know. I need advance notice on questions like that. Most beautiful thing I've seen today. I'll come back to that one.
Okay. I have asked Miss Vine to provide me with some of the answers that she gave at the time. We had a great conversation. It's a shame that some of the end part was missing, but there we are. That's just what happened. So the question, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today, was the pursuit of knowledge by people who she'd experienced. And her example was a language called Esperanto, which I wasn't familiar with. And she went into the history of Esperanto. So look into it yourself. It sounds fascinating. She did a great job of explaining it at the time. I can't do it justice now because I don't have the recording where we had that conversation, but I remember talking to her about it, and I am going to look into it myself. So maybe in a future video I will discuss Esperanto with you. But that was her most beautiful thing she'd seen that day, was people pursuing knowledge and growing and sharing in that way, using that as an example, the language that she'd experienced people learning. How do you feel about the previous question? Have you had any moments of that's something which I could remember as the most beautiful thing I saw today? Or
I think it was the birds in the garden this morning. I've got house martins nesting.
Oh, lovely.
And they're active, flying around, and they're just so lovely to see.
Oh, fantastic. That is nice. I suppose the last thing I would say then, is there any social media that you're looking to promote that you'd like people to look at? Any accounts that you've got on any different platforms, or any website, or anywhere you'd like to drive traffic, any upcoming exhibitions, anything you'd like to promote at all?
At the moment, no.
Is there nothing?
I'm in the mid. No, because at the moment it's all on hold and just being rejigged. So there's there's my Instagram, but I'm not really active on it at the moment, so there's nothing I'm active
No.
with. At the moment.
That's all right.
No.
Are you
just having a bit of time out?
How are you? So, I was going to ask if you're working on a new set of either charts or pieces or anything. Are you working on anything new?
I'm continuing with some of the smaller pieces of the collaged work, which they're all up on my desk, spread out everywhere, because I've got people are interested in those. But again, as I say, I'm going to be working on this series of work around carousel horses,
Of course, yeah,
and sort of in relation to life and life experiences, and how you just keep going round and round and round. And initially it's fun, and then it can become a bit of a frigging nightmare. Yeah. It's just sort of looking at in around psychological issues, I suppose.
Interesting.
Around that and mental health, and
excellent.
Repetitive, because they are this repetitive as you go round and round. And initially, say do the first few times, it's probably quite fun, and then if you keep going round and round and round, it's not necessarily going to be quite so fun.
No, it can be monotonous and sometimes even maddening to keep repeating the same action.
But there's sort of, again, until I start working through the imagery, I'm not quite sure where that's going.
Is that potentially for this year, or is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, you'll have to keep me posted, because I'd love to see how that develops and where it ends up.
Yeah, well, I'll start popping things up on the Instagram. And there'll be a link if that Instagram gets changed.
Okay.
There'll be a link.
Okay, fantastic.
So.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on here. I know that it's been tricky with the technical issues and the arrangements of availability, but I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your work and your thoughts and your history a bit. And hopefully in the future, if you have more exhibitions that you'd like to discuss and you can stomach another session of talking on camera, then I'd love to have you on again. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Good.
Okay, so that's the podcast done. Now, I thought that was a really interesting conversation. It wasn't as quite as casual as what I usually do with people who I know and I have a bit of banter with, but at the same time, I don't know Chris on that level, and I also have a different type of respect for her work because we're not that familiar with each other. I wanted to really try to probe in certain areas and not be too intrusive with her ideas and thoughts in others, because some people can be a bit more, I don't know, I suppose a bit more protective over the roots of their creative process. So I didn't want to be too much of, letting my questions pry into areas where it perhaps wasn't welcome. So I thought that was a really interesting back and forth regarding what are your thoughts regarding this, and perhaps some of this needs more thought. And I thought it was really nice to have the spaces where none of us would be speaking and she'd just be thinking. That's something which I've not had on a podcast episode before. I thought that was really, it was just interesting to see someone think, just to sit on the podcast and think, because it's usually just non-stop chatter like I'm doing now, where it's just yeah. Whereas with her, she actually just stopped and really processed what her true thoughts and feelings were about certain questions. And I think that's really invaluable. I thought the work was beautiful. I really loved sharing that with the audience to sort of show what it was that I saw. And obviously it's more beautiful in person. That's always going to be the case with artwork. And I'm hoping that in the future she'll come on the podcast again. But even if not, then it's been a real treat to talk to her. And I just thought it was really interesting. And I hope that you enjoyed it as well. If you did, then please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell, and I will see you in the next episode. What's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
Only today?
Only today.
All right, give me a second. All right. Does it have to be one thing? Can it be like a handful of things? I guess.
Suppose. I'm curious to see what you're thinking of. I mean, usually people get hung up on the superlative of most beautiful. So don't let that stop you with, is this more beautiful than this? It's more, what have you retained that you're like, that's something which I know that I've admired or appreciated today or something.
Okay. All right. So, all right, this is going to be super corny, but my husband and his face.
Oh.
And and this drawing that I'm working on, and that might be like, wow, what a big head, but but so I only draw things that I like, and while I'm working on the thing, it's like that's the point. The point is for me to love what I'm drawing. So
fantastic. No, that's not cheesy at all. But everyone says that when they're answering, like, this is going to be corny or this is going to be cheesy. Everyone says that because it does feel a bit, you become vulnerable. But my mentor used to ask me that every day that I'd see her, because it taught me you're supposed to retain things as an artist. You should be admiring and observing things. And what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
Oh, interesting. I'll tell you what it was. I was on the school run and I was dropping my son off, well, both of them. And there was a little girl and she was grabbing onto the school gates and didn't want to go into school. And she was hysterical. And the teachers were trying to get her fingers, peel her fingers from off the gate. And her mum came round and went on the other side of the gate. So she wasn't putting herself right there with her. She was putting herself at distance from going behind the gate. But she went at eye level with her and she says, "You're going to be okay. School is a lot of fun and we'll have such a good conversation about all the things you did when we get home." And slowly her fingers just uncurled from the gate and she just became so relaxed. And it was just such a beautiful moment of how the trust and the connection between the mother and child, it just emulated all that. And it was so lovely. And it was that lovely that I'm going to draw it later. You're like a kid screaming at the gates than the mother being there. Yeah, it was just a lovely moment.
Oh, that's fantastic. You see, that's a question which some people have rejected because they just don't. I think some people don't like the superlative of most beautiful. I think that's what they're like, I can't come up with the most, and that's the pressure. And other people, what I find interesting is some people will say sunset or the sky or birds, and they're all completely valid. And I love that. I love that yours was a story. With you being a storyteller, yours is a story.
Yeah, I suppose. I look at, I went on a dog walk today and there was loads of beautiful things, but they are beautiful, but it has to catch me. Like you look at the trees and the scenic views and the houses and there's loads of like chocolate box cottages all around where I live and they're lovely and I do think they're beautiful, but for me moments like how I've just described there, those singular moments that nobody's really looking at but happen, they're the most beautiful things to me.
It's real humanity as well. It's development of a young mind and a young child into going into a scary place and really being brave. So that's beautiful. I love that.
Let's see. Someone wants me to ask you, what's the most beautiful thing you've seen today?
That's a lovely question. Oh, the most beautiful thing I saw today. I'm trying to see if I want to answer with food or if I want to answer with my cat. I'll go with my cat. She, in the mornings, she will bitch and moan about her food. but there will be a period of time where she will lay on you, and just kind of cuddle up. And like she just gets so cute. Like when she cuddles up, she'll like kind of turn around at first. Her butt will face you, so that's not that cute. But then she'll kind of stretch about and then switch up, and then she just kind of like sleeps like this almost. Like she puts her head, and like it's super cute. And she did that this morning. I was like, so it was really beautiful. That's a wonderful question. You never get asked that. What's something beautiful that you saw? What about you, John? Like, what was the most?
I'm biased. It's my kid every morning.
It's your baby.
Yeah, just he's growing so fast, and you don't really like. It's such a cliche thing to say, like, oh, they grow up so fast.
Yeah,
but it's really it's so weird because they are literally an embodiment of time, essentially. And like when you see people, you don't really see them change, over a long period of time. But like with kids, it's completely different. You kind of realize how old you're getting just by looking at them grow.
Oh my goodness!
But yeah, it's definitely my kid. He does something cute every day. So I mean, yeah, definitely biased there.
Congratulations! No, that's a good bias.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a great bias to have.
He keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, Simon says, Hyunjin, what the most beautiful thing that you have seen today? Right now.
Right now.
This time.
Right now.
Genghis had skin. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I saw you guys.
Beautiful.
사이먼 시즈 아트워크라는 분인데 오늘 보신 것 중에 제일 아름다운 게 무엇인지 여쭤보셨습니다.
맨날 물어보시는 분이네.
오늘 본 것 중에 최고 아름다운 거.
무전 걸린 내 엄지발가락 진짜 좀 나아지고 있는 것 같다. 네, 색깔이 돌아오고 있어요, 여러분들. 역시 사람도 견근도 투자한 만큼 변하는 것 같습니다.
오늘 여기 오기 전에 어디 갔다 왔죠?
아닙니다. 그런 적 없습니다.
네.
You'll see here in the comment section how Tortuga Drawing has translated for me that his answer was his toe, LOL. And that is the answer that he gives me every time I ask him. Okay, so that is the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun to include a montage at the beginning and to have Carla Ortiz, Hyun Jin and Kim Jung-gi at the end, and all of the guests back to back, with the exception of Miss Bind, who sadly the recording ran out, so that's why you have me giving her answers for that section. But everyone's answers were just wonderful. I really appreciate everyone's deep thought and contemplation and consideration of that question. And ask yourself, what is the most beautiful thing you've seen today? I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, then please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. Once you've done that, select all for all the notifications. Doesn't cost you a thing, it's not a big problem, and I'd really appreciate the support. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode.